What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Kicks and Picks podcast. Nick, Scotty with you, and a very special guest taking it in here for Coach Steve. You know him from The Office. I'm kidding. I told myself I wasn't going to make that joke, and I made it anyway.
You get one freebie.
Michael Scott back with us this year to preview the Bundesliga. Michael, thank you so much for joining us, brother. Really appreciate you. I had a great time with you last season, kicking off this same preview episode. And got to say, man, you pretty much were spot on with how you saw the league playing out, what we thought we were going to see. And we're excited to do it all again with you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back. I really feel like I used up a lot of goodwill getting those picks right last year. So maybe take everything I say this year with a grain of salt. And, maybe I'll hit 1 out of every 5 years.
No, man, we are so ready to do it again with you. Really excited to get your thoughts, your expertise, how you think the league is going to shake out this year. Scotty, man, let's get the ugly over with before we jump into that. I feel like we had just a disaster. Well, I don't know about I had a disastrous week. I think I gave out 1 winning pick and 5 losers. I don't know.
I mean,
I think it was one of those weeks where I told everybody to take underdogs and I didn't take any underdogs myself, and they all looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the opening week is always either a really easy week because, books are kind of playing conservative and you can take, you can find value in certain plays, or it's really hard because you don't really know what to expect and, some surprising teams can come out and make statements. I will say I live by one mantra every season, which is you never bet against the newly promoted team in their first home game of the season. Both of those teams, Sunderland being probably the most the biggest win, came through for us. So shout out them. Leeds beat an Everton team that looked
terrible,
unbelievably terrible. I don't know. I mean, again, we shouldn't be surprised it's Everton, but I think, Everton second half of last year under Moyes looked pretty decent. So them coming out and being that flat this weekend certainly surprised me a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that just leaves us with, one match this weekend for us to kind of take advantage of. There's only one promoted team left. So keep that in the back pocket when we talk about Burnley.
Oh man, yeah, I was so wrong about Everton, unfortunately. But in any case, we're gonna get into another league first. So, Michael, again, your expertise on the Bundesliga is greatly appreciated. Obviously, you're a Bayern Munich fan, so you've been happy for the better part of probably your entire life. So just to recap for everybody, Bayern did win another title, ran away with it on 82 points last year. Leverkusen, another stellar season, quite honestly. Only 3 losses, 69 points in second. Frankfurt and Dortmund rounding out the top 4. Freiburg and Mainz finishing in Europe. Leipzig, Stuttgart, Werder Bremen on the outside looking in. So with just any prevailing thoughts you have from last season before you get into your outlook for Bayern and your outlook for the Bundesliga this year.
Absolutely. Well, when we talked about last year, last summer when I came on, we talked about how it was going to be a reset year, where the year before we had Stuttgart finish second, Leverkusen won the league. It was all chaos and people were like, what's going to happen? And last year was a reset year. We knew it was going to happen, and it happened. Bayern came back and won the title pretty handily. They spent all season with everybody hating on Vincent Kompany and saying, oh, they're not creative in attack, they can't score. And we almost broke the all-time scoring record in the Bundesliga that I think we missed about 2 or 3 goals, not much at all. So Bayern is back to where they're supposed to be. Leverkusen's miracle run went away. They didn't come up with all the miraculous goals they did in their undefeated season, but that's okay. They still finished up there pretty high and are going to be a contender again this year. Frankfurt was really the surprise last year. We have a guy, Marcus Iredal, who does a Bundesliga show every week, and he was big on Frankfurt early on and definitely delivered. And had they not let Marmoush go to Manchester City in January, they probably would have been in the title hunt a little bit longer. They kind of faded, but had done enough early on to hold on to their Champions League spot, which is great. Dortmund was the opposite, where they started out super slow and we're like, what are we doing? And kind of got into gear and closed out with the Champions League spot. There is kind of a weird thing here. You mentioned, Freiburg and Mainz, and Stuttgart was on the outside looking in going, we finished second. What are we doing now? But they actually won the German Cup, so they get a Europa League spot. which will be kind of an interesting way to get in there. So instead of having 5 teams in the Champions League, there's 4 Champions League, 2 Europa League, and then might snuck into the conference spot. We'll kind of talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah.
So Leipzig, out of all the teams, was left out. So from that perspective, interesting season in terms of Leipzig getting left out, but I think that's going to be corrected this year, and we'll knock into that a little bit too.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, we just remember they had a dismal finish to the year. I think they were winless in like the last 8 games, and I think Dortmund won like 6 or 7 in a row to close out the year. So super interesting. So yeah, I mean, obviously super stoked on Bayern. Let's jump right into them. I mean, are we expecting a repeat? Just to level set for the world, they are, get my numbers right, a minus 360 favorite to win the Bundesliga this year.
That seems
any reason to believe that won't happen?
No, they're going to win. And it's not necessarily about what Bayern did, because like if you look at what we added versus we lost, we lost Leroy Sané, replaced him with Luis Diaz. That's kind of a like for like, similar age, similar type of player. We lost Eric Dyer. We brought in Jonathan Tah, who might be a little more suited as a starter. We lost some youth players, but we brought in Tom Bischoff on a free transfer. And so we kind of replenished what we didn't lose anything. We didn't really add anything either. We've got some youth players coming in we'll talk about, but for the most part, we kind of just stayed status quo. Whereas you look at all the other contenders, they did not do that. Leverkusen gave away Florian Wirtz and Frimpong, which I think is a bigger loss. I know Wirtz is a big name, but Frimpong's really an X factor for them. Frankfurt gave away Hugo
TK. I gotcha.
Nice. They got a lot of money for him, but they didn't really replace him. They bought Jonathan Burkhart for 21 million. Okay, that's not the same thing at all. Dortmund lost Jamie Giddens to Chelsea, brought in Bellingham and Couto from Man City, which will be fine, but they're not replacing that. Freiburg, same thing. They sent Don't to Frankfurt, didn't replace him. The only interesting one is Leipzig, because they sold off Benjamin Sesko last week, but they replaced him with 3 or 4 really young studs. And that's where Leipzig has outdone everybody else in the Bundesliga, is they immediately reinvest in these burgeoning stars who are 19 to 22, and 3 years from now they sell them for 75 million because they're good players and develop them well. And so the point is no, Bayern's not going to give up the title. They're going to win again, unless the entire squad gets injured.
I feel like they got to give some sort of mini award to Liverpool for helping them a little bit. Not that they needed the help. I mean, Liverpool selling them Luis Diaz, and then off of Leverkusen, like you said, taking Frimpong and Wirtz. They're taking Ekitike off of Frankfurt. I mean, they just built that gap up for them a little bit more.
There's a mini award, but that's almost like a consolation prize for them stealing Florian Wirtz from us, who we basically had locked up.
That's true.
Granted, it was our fault. Don't get me wrong. That's a different issue, is the alignment issues between Bayern's board of directors, their sporting directors, and their coaches. It's just not there, because they basically, so the story goes, is Wirtz went into the meeting with Vincent Kompany, and he's like, all right, I got it. He went into a separate meeting with the board, and they gave him a completely different plan. You can't do that with a guy who you want to be your franchise player. You just can't. And Jamal Musiala was super excited to play with Wirtz, and that's gone now. They can play together on the national team, but and I personally don't think that Wirtz is a very good fit for what Liverpool's doing. And I think we've seen a little bit of that over the past month. Maybe he gets there. He's still a good player, but he's not a great fit. He would have been a better fit at like Man City and being one of those kind of players. So maybe he makes his way back to Bayern in 3 years after not being a superstar at Liverpool, or I'm wrong like I was about Kevin De Bruyne, and he absolutely dominates and wins like 6 out of 7 titles. And, I'm laughing.
Listen, man, I'll give the outside take, because Scotty's a Liverpool fan. He's just too good of a player to not figure it out and not make it work at any team, right? Yeah. And you have a team like Liverpool, it's first world problems, right? Same thing with Bayern, I guess. There's only so much ball to go around. I say that a lot, but when you have so many guys that are so talented that can do so many things, they'll figure it out eventually. I'm not overly concerned. At the end of the day, like you said, your mistake is Liverpool's gain.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think there's 2 levels of adaptation that they have to go through. I think, Wirtz just have to adapt to a new league. I think we see that with player transfers, every league. It's not just Premier League. It's when you go from one league to another, there's always a little bit different style. He has to kind of figure that out. And then I think Liverpool have to learn how to play without Szoboszlai as that 10, attacking midfielder with the wingers and behind Ekitike. Because Soboslai did a lot. For an attacking midfielder, he really did play a lot like a box to box. Wirtz isn't going to give you that same level of box to box play. I mean, he can certainly have progressive carries through the midfield. He's obviously a maestro in the final third, but I think if it's McAllister and Soboslai, or Jones and Soboslai playing in those double pivots, like there's a lot more that they have to do in terms of like a defensive responsibility that wouldn't have had to do if Soboslai's playing as a 10, right? And Gravenberch coming back, I think that's going to help out a lot. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think it's going to take a couple months for Wirtz to really settle in, because both team and player have to adapt a little bit.
Right. No question. So man, it's interesting to me. I'm going to I wrote myself these nice notes of the order I wanted to go in, but I'm also the kind of host that when something pops into my head, I have to ask and I have to go off on a tangent. You mentioned, you think Leipzig 7th place, obviously sold some of their key players. They really, for as much offensive talent they had last year, they only scored 53 goals. Like that's wild to me. And Openda had 24. So he had half your goals.
Yeah.
And you sold another striker.
Yeah.
And you're what went wrong? I guess obviously we follow from week to week. We follow the score lines. I didn't watch that team enough to really have an opinion. What really went wrong, other than looks like they gave up a ton of goals?
They had some cohesion issues. That's it. And so it's funny because they had Sesko. Sesko really wasn't a great fit for what they were doing. He's a big classic German number 9. And when Leipzig has been successful, they're a great defensive team that is vicious on the counterattack. They're not dominating possession. And I think they got kind of an identity crisis of being somewhere in the middle. They weren't a full out attacking team, possession team. They weren't a full defensive team. And so game to game, they were constantly changing it around. And I think that really came back to bite them in terms of they weren't able to really get over the hump the way that you would like them to. And it's not like they had a bad year. They just didn't have a great year because they would give up points in these games that they traditionally hadn't since they joined the top flight. And that is a weird spot to be in. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you go look at how they played, go look at their formations. I don't think they used the same formation of the Bundesliga more than 3 times in a row. One time back in, it wasn't even all in the Bundesliga. They were switching between the Champions League. They were all over the place. So they were trying to adjust to the opponent every game, opposed to being the better team that says, this is how we're going to play, try to stop us. And I think that came back to bite them a little bit. I would like to think that they will get back to their roots a little bit better this year. I think the faster they can figure out this Simon situation with Chelsea, is he going to go or is he not? Doesn't matter which way, just make a decision and go. I think they'll have a better year this year. I think they're going to finish top 4. I think next year they can legit challenge Bayern for the title, because they will have had a 2-year window where these guys aren't going to change. Because really, they only lost Sesko. They didn't lose a lot of other things. That was really it. And that was just to pay for everybody else. And it's not that Sesko's not a good player. I think he's going to do really well at Man United, if that's possible for any player to do well at Man United. But I think that all these other guys they brought in are the right guys, and it's getting back to the roots of what they do well. Let's be an athletic, smart, defensive team that doesn't need possession, but will be opportunistic and set pieces, and certainly on the counterattack. And I almost halfway expected them to go back and get Timo Werner and bring him back and be like, you can do this. We believe in you. That would be wrong. But
he's not doing it currently, so might as well bring him back. No, it's just, I appreciate that outlook. It's just so fascinating. I'm looking, they had a goal differential of 5, so their defense was as bad as their offense, I guess. 13 wins, 12 draws, 9 losses, like essentially even 500 across the board. To use like a baseball analogy. It's kind of crazy, but okay. So you mentioned you like them definitely on the come up. Let's quickly get into their odds for top 4. They are -125. So the books tend to agree with you. Bayern is and Leverkusen are both unplayable. Dortmund is -400 to finish top 4. Leipzig -125. Frankfurt +275. Stuttgart +350. Freiburg +700, Wolfsburg +1200, Bremen, Mainz also +1200. So you just talked a lot about Leipzig. I'm not going to have you give your thoughts at this exact moment on Leverkusen or Dortmund. Out of the remainder of the teams, do you see any value here? Any of these other teams you expect to get into the top four? Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Freiburg, Wolfsburg, Bremen, or Mainz?
I do, but not where you normally expect. I'm usually a play it safe kind of guy. I would not touch Frankfurt or Stuttgart with a 10-foot pole. There's not enough value there. And I quite frankly don't think they're going to finish top four anyways, value or not. I think that Freiburg is going to drop. This past year, I was super high on Freiburg. Really like them. And honestly, I felt like they underachieved still a little bit getting into the Europa League. I thought they were going to finish top four. However, the teams after them that are going like plus 1,000 are really good chances. Werder Bremen, really good chance to move up. I think they were the ones who, one of these teams finished with like a plus, it was Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg finished with a +2 goal differential, but finished 11th. That doesn't make any sense. Whereas Freiburg finished -4 and finished 5th. Those are going to flip this year. It's Freiburg rounded out a lot of early results that they shouldn't have had, but they got the moment. That's not going to happen this year. It's going to go back the other direction, where I think Wolfsburg probably is the best value at +1,400. I would absolutely take them. Bremen would probably be the other one. Gladbach's a good one. I think they're +1,400, something like that. It's worth a flyer. If you took those three, I bet you're going to hit on at least one of them in terms of top four, because I think somebody else is going to drop. Frankfurt for sure. But I think that one of those is going to slip in. I think Freiburg is going to go the absolute wrong direction. Don't touch that. Mainz, I don't believe in Mainz. I don't know how to say it. They're a dirty team. Dirty teams don't finish top five unless you're going to let it go. But they also have talent. The odds of that happening is slim. So I would say Bremen, Wolfsburg, Gladbach, great value plays.
I dig it. I'm looking at the standings. I'm pulling at my memory and I'm taking in what you said. You gave me three options of where I like to be, 4 digits on a future. So I know what I'm doing the second we hang up this show. All right, let me go back then. I'm going in reverse order, guys. Sorry to mess with you. The other interesting future that it will, like taking Bayern out of it, is winner without. DraftKings offers this. Some books will offer it. Not all of them do. So that is essentially assuming Bayern Munich win the league. This would be second place, right? Or, I mean, I guess if these teams were to finish first, you would technically win that bet as well. So first or second place. We did this a lot in the Premier League the last couple of years. So again, check your book, see if they have this odds, this market. DraftKings does. Leverkusen is the favorite at +140, Dortmund +175, Leipzig +450, Frankfurt +1,600, and then the rest are +2,000 or greater. So you just gave us some really good long shots for top four. Do you think Leipzig at +450, Dortmund at +175, or Leverkusen at +140 have the best chance to finish second?
I think it's got to be Leipzig for the same reasons I already talked about. I think by the end of the season, they're going to be coming on really strong, and they're going to put together one of those incredible second halves of the season where they were out of it ahead of time, where maybe they're fifth headed into Christmas, and then they really cap it off and make a run when Leverkusen and Dortmund might guarantee they're going to be top four and kind of sit on a little bit. Where they realize they're not going to win, but they're also not going to finish fifth or sixth. Whereas Leipzig going to be coming on and be playing for something because they're not playing in Europe. And so all they have is the Bundesliga, and certainly they are a team that does very well in the German Cup. So I think they're going to be the hot ticket. Leverkusen at 135 and Dortmund, I think it's 175. Those are terrible value plays. There's nothing to that. I don't know how Leverkusen could possibly finish top two. I just don't know how you can do it. They brought in, Malik Tillman, Kwanzaa from Liverpool. And really the biggest change with them is they have a new coach in Eric Ten Hag. I like Ten Hag a lot. I think the Man U job was an unwinnable position for him. I think he will do better at a place like Leverkusen. I thought he would have done a really good job at one of the younger places. Honestly, Leipzig would have been a great spot for him. But there's plenty of other places in the Bundesliga, like a Wolfsburg or something like that, where the pressure's not there. I think he would have done really well. I think Leverkusen might be the job he should have aspired to after this job, but he could easily come in. He's German. He did a great job with Bayern's academy when he
Yep.
was there. He knows a lot of these players, including Tillman. I think they work together. So I think that he's going to put them in a position to win, but I think it's going to take a little bit to adjust to how do we play without Florian Wirtz? How do we play without Frimpong just doing amazing things? There's a couple options we'll talk about later. There's some younger guys, along with a potential Golden Boot dark horse, but besides that, I think that they're going to struggle to find a consistent rhythm. They're going to lose some games they shouldn't. They're going to draw some games they shouldn't, and that's going to keep them out of second place.
All right. So there's one team I want to talk about in particular before we shift to some more odds, because they're the team you haven't really mentioned that's been in the thick of it for the past year, 2 years, 5 years. What's your outlook on Dortmund going into this season?
They love to not finish in first place, don't they? They really do. Every time that they have a shot, they just shoot themselves in the foot with their own gun and nobody else is around. They shouldn't have a gun in their hands. You saw a couple years ago and all they had to do was win or match Bayern's outcome, and they lost, or I think they drew that game. They got the benefit of some late stoppage time goals and like an extra 5 minutes they didn't deserve, and they still couldn't do it. I think that they are just a classic top 4 team, but they are not going to be the team that challenges Bayern for the title like Leverkusen did last year to 2 years ago. I don't believe in Dortmund. Again, you're not getting good odds on anything they're doing. Nope. And so there's no reason to touch them. They're not going to drop like relegation zones. There's nothing there. The only thing they have going for them is a Golden Boot potential winner and Serie Girassi.
Yep.
You can check me on that one, but he's the guy. But that's not going to translate into wins. They don't control the midfield, and that will forever be their problem. They haven't fixed that. Every time they get somebody who can, they ship them off. They take the money because nobody wants to stay there. They know that it's the mentality of that club is just, we're big money, but we're not the winning horse. We're not the underdog either, but they've got some mentality issues that I just don't think that they can get past, and they certainly didn't change enough to do that. Bringing in a young Bellingham is certainly not going to be what gets you over the hump. And Giddens is the kind of guy that they've always developed and sold, and it takes
That's what I was going to say. Transient team.
And how do you be a big selling club? That's the weirdest thing to me. So I wouldn't touch them for anything they're doing. And especially if you're not going to get good odds, absolutely not.
Yep. Fair enough. No, the one thing I'll say, it's a team that tends to make noise in the Champions League. Great home team. They always play up to their opposition, but you kind of mentioned it. Push comes to shove in the Bundesliga, and I think they did well towards the end of last year, but I agree with you. There's really nothing to bet on this team.
Yeah, consistency is such a major issue. And even when they made it to the Champions League final, 15 months ago or whatever that was, they strung together the right results against the right team, stayed healthy. They always have depth, but the problem is their starting 11 can't beat the other starting 11s of elite teams, period. That is forever their problem. So they do well in tournaments because they're able to play people and they don't really lose anything, which not every club can say. Barcelona is going to run into that issue here soon since they can't buy players. Bayern's got a serious problem with they don't have a lot of depth. It's all youth players, but they're not going to get over the hump either.
Fair enough. Scotty, sorry, it looked like I was cutting you off from a thought earlier.
No, all good.
All right. What do we got? So let's talk relegation. I don't have odds for it, but certainly want your thoughts on what's going on in the bottom of the table. Check me here. Holstein Kiel and Bochum both went down. Who was the third team, or did a third team go down?
Heidenheim in Germany, the third worst team.
Won.
They do a playoff and they won and with a late goal to stay up.
Okay, so they stayed up, but I remember them being awfully bad. St. Pauli, who I don't know, they must have had a really good stretch in the middle of the season because I remember fading them every single game early on, and I'm looking at their form towards the end of last year. They didn't win a game in the last 2 months. Yeah. So good on them for staying up. Is that a candidate to go back down? Or what do you see happening? Tell us about the new teams that were promoted. Anything we should know here?
Yeah, I would not touch the teams that got promoted, Cologne and Hamburg. And the reason being is that these are
And those are
teams.
two like Bundesliga stalwarts, right? Like I'm sorry
That's-
to cut you off, but those are teams that have been around.
That's why they dropped, but they still have the resources to stay up, and they have good teams. I think they're going to finish in like 14th, 15th, not just like outside the relegation zone. I think that they're not going to be worried about that for most of the season. I do think that Heidenheim and St. Pauli are going to be the ones that drop. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of debate about that. I think that's going to be the case. So really the question is the third team is who else do you think is going to be there? And the eyes I have are two teams that are probably good value are Hoffenheim.
Okay.
They've been itching at it for the past few years, and I think it's time. They just need to do it. Again, they gave up their star midfielder, Tom Bischoff, on a free transfer. They didn't get anything for him. I think we paid $300,000 so we could have him for the June portion of the Club World Cup, and he played one game. By comparison, we paid Leverkusen $2 million for Jonathan Tah for that same stretch of time. So you see, they didn't get any value out of it. They're just dead. It's almost like they're waiting for it to happen. And just don't know what to do about it. And so I think they're a big candidate there. And then Augsburg is the other one that is just itching to drop down. They've stayed up for however long they can. I think that they're both going to be fighting each other off to be in that last spot where whoever loses less, it's going to be the one.
Right. And dude, Augsburg, another team. Like I remember they were, I don't know. They must have had an amazing stretch at some point that I don't remember because they were losing every game down the stretch. So they finished 12th last year.
Yeah. The two teams who've relegated, they never challenged anybody else. They were way down there, being Holston and Bochum, which I struggle to say, but Holston, I really wanted them to be a good team because they've worked their way up and their defense was just so good. I think they gave up 10 more goals than everybody else. Their defense was horrendous. And they had so many games where like they score goals against teams who weren't giving up goals and then lose 3-2. There was too much of that. And then they stopped scoring. So then it got really ugly. The same thing with Bochum they fell off. Heidenheim, I liked a lot. They couldn't score. It was awful to watch.
And they're one of those, they had the least amount of draws in the league, which as like a relegation fighter, that doesn't help you. You got to turn, 3, 4, 5 of those losses into draws. Give yourself a fighting chance.
Yes. 1,000%. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. So appreciate that. Let's get into one more odds market here. Player futures top goal scorer. As Scotty mentioned, I don't remember actually now if you mentioned it on the show or before the show, but Harry Kane is the odds-on favorite, -135 to lead the league in goals. As a reminder, the man had 36 last year, showing no signs of slowing down. Obviously plays on the best team. Let's not touch that. The next closest to him are Girassi at +450, Patrick Schick, former Roma great, +600. Michael Elise, +1400. Bukart, +1400. Boniface, if I'm not mistaken, his transfer went through or is about to go through. So he shouldn't even be on this list, or we won't even consider him. Yep. Luis Diaz, +1600. Openda, +1600. And then, man, a lot of guys that you may or may not know. There's some that I know, some that I don't. So I'm not going to go through any further than that. The question I have for you is pick some names out of a hat here for us. Who do you think has a realistic shot? You see any value in anybody? I'm looking, man, I don't know. Openda had 24 goals last year. I mean, that's a lot for him to be +1600. That's the first name that jumped out to me.
Yep. So I got 3 names for you.
Go.
So Harry Kane, have you heard of him? He's good. So Kane's interesting because he had 26 goals in the Bundesliga last year. I think he had 36 overall, but 26 in the Bundesliga, which I think was only a few ahead of, I think the next person was like 21. So that gap is closed significantly. Another thing that they've been talking about this year is that they really want to have a clear-cut backup striker. First, they were talking about Serge Gnabry. Now they like this young kid, Jonah Kuziazari. They're clearly going to rotate him out of games, whereas they did not do that at all last year. Him and Kimmich played like 90 minutes every game if they could. I think that's going to change this year, which means I think this might be the year. Now let's talk about who can actually catch him. Schick and Burkhart both had good years there last year, not this year. They are going to have weird changes. Again, Schick for Leverkusen, I think there's going to be too much change. They're not going to score as much. And quite frankly, I think Tillman's going to take away a lot of his goals. So that's super important. Burkhart switched. He went from Mainz to Frankfurt. And people are like, oh, he's going to score more goals now. The problem is he was the Mainz go-to guy. He's the only guy who scored for Mainz. And Frankfurt is a defensive-minded team that counterattacks, which really isn't his style. He's more of a set-piece type scorer, which is why he did so well for Mainz. I think you can write off both of those guys. So now let's talk about the names that actually matter. I think Guirassi's going to do it. He's 29. He scored 20 goals the past 2 seasons in the Bundesliga, and he's at plus 600. That's the bet. I think he's actually going to beat Kane, even if there's no injuries for Kane. I think he's just going to be the one who does it because Dortmund needs him to do it. And you see these guys who get to like 27, 28, 29. Karim Benzema is another type guy in that mold of like they're good players and they finally have that breakout year, and I think that's going to be this year for Guirassy.
So Michael, I hate to do this. I hate to be the guy, because you came on and you just dropped so much knowledge in 30 minutes that I don't want to question any of it. I think everything you're saying is spot on. Everything you're saying has legs. Here's my issue with Guirassy. He's going to miss 2, 3, 4 weeks of game time for the Africa Cup of Nations.
I'm not worried about it.
Ooh.
And so if you go back and look at his international goals last year, he doesn't slow down. It fuels him. And I think that's not going to be a problem. Yes, he will miss it. And
I don't think now I'm looking like, I don't know that his team's going to go super far, right? It's not like he's going to miss extended time, but he's still, you never know with the travel. Players come back with injuries. Players come back, malnourished, whatever happens. Is he going to be the same guy second half of the year?
And I think the key part of it is that I'm not saying he's going to score 35 goals. I think he's going to score between 20 to 25. I think Kane's going to score less.
Okay.
And that is a key aspect of this. It's going to be one of those years where it just doesn't take as much, and you see more. I think you'll see the same total amount of goals, but they'll be spread across more players across the league, because the teams who have these types of players, that's what they've done, with one exception, and that is, I want to say it right, Ermedin Demirovic. Okay, so this dude plays for Stuttgart. He had a good year last year. I wouldn't call it a great year, but he had a good year, and he was kind of the main beneficiary of when they lost Marmouche, right? You saw Hugo pick up a little bit, but I think Demirovic is going to be I can't even say it. It's not important.
You got it.
I think that he is going to be the dude who is the main beneficiary. Again, he's hitting 27, right? 28. He's getting about that age where you see these guys just have a big year. And I thought that it was going to be last year. I think it's just going to be this year. And so will he win the title? That seems generous. Again, but he's got 15 goals last year, 15 goals the year before when he played for Augsburg. I think that he's got the right things coming. He's going in the right direction. And if he can be the one who takes PKs, which I don't think he did for Stuttgart last year, I think that will change. I think that's going to add 5 goals to his tally. He's going to be in the 20s. And I think he's got the best odds. I think he was
plus 5,000 is what I'm looking
5,000. That's a good value where you can put low money and get great value for it. So,
hell yeah.
I also had Victor Boniface in that same exact category, but obviously he got scratched out today, which is super depressing. But hey, going to Milan, so he needed a fresh start. He had some serious behavioral issues that just needed to be done, and I thought it would happen with them losing their coach, but maybe it just needs to be a complete change of scenery.
And Milan need attacking depth, so I think it's going to be a good move for both.
Yeah, he scores a lot of goals that have nothing to do with the rest of the game, where he just creates on his own and bullies like 3 guys and then just blasted. Like, it's insane to watch.
It's like Lookman.
Yes, he just finds goals when they don't exist.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. And it's frustrating to all get out when you're playing against girl. Like, hey, we're dominating. Okay, we've got 2 guys on him, and he just runs one over, and the other guy tries to foul him and gets thrown backwards and then does amazing things. So he's going to be a great guy to keep an eye on in Serie A.
There we go. I was going to say, the only thing I would look at, so, I agree with Garashi. I think, as far as like a true contender against Kane, he's probably your best bet. I would also kind of hedge it. Kane is getting older. He's not exactly a guy that's been known to play every single game. I think he got used a lot with his time at Tottenham, and this feels like a kind of striker where you may need to either manage his minutes or he might, pick up some muscle injuries here and there. So I would also kind of back that up, looking at some other players on Bayern. Like, I know Ulisse is probably primed to have a pretty good year with Musiala, probably missing the first couple of months. Yeah. So he's sitting there at plus 1,400 as just kind of like a hedge for if Kane misses time and somebody else in Bayern needs to step up. The other name that I'm curious, because you went with the other Stuttgart striker, but Nick Woltemade, who I think is, from what I hear, is kind of the, he's maybe Bayern's next project coming through in the next couple of years. What is your hesitation with him, and why are you going with Demirovic over Woltemade?
He's too young. He's too inexperienced, and that's why it was laughable that they wanted like 75 million for this guy. And like, look at his production of like, yeah, he's a very creative force. He's a big body he doesn't necessarily play like a big body, but he's got some great dribbling skills. He's got some great vision, but it's not the complete package. He off the ball movement is still a problem for him because he's a young striker. That's a very common thing. Is he going to be a 10? Is he going to be a 9? Is he going to be a false 9? What are you going to do with him? What are you going to do with him now that he's got a bad attitude? Now that, hopefully he's going to be a professional, and now that it's more or less been settled, but he really wanted to move to Bayern and Bayern only, and they told him no, basically. They pretended like it was a low offer, but I'm not quite sure 75 million would have been enough. They really needed him, and quite frankly, they're counting on him having a breakout year. I wouldn't count on it. Maybe 2-3 years down the line, okay, you could talk me into it, but this year, absolutely not. If he scores 15 goals, I'd be shocked, truly shocked.
All right.
Shit, man. Fair enough. So anything else? I think we covered a lot. Anything else you're looking out for this year? Any other player we should, odds or goal scoring aside, anybody you're interested in watching, any team that we didn't mention that you think is worth a shout? Lay it all on us.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about clubs a lot. We talked about odds. I think we've kind of covered as much as we need to cover there. There are some fun names to talk about to kind of keep your eye on as like who can explode this year, right? So I'll go 3 in particular and then kind of rattle off a few extras. So obviously, as a Bayern fan, Pavlovic is primed for another big jump. He came in, had a really good first year with us and kind of lit us on fire in the spring as Tuchel left. Had some injuries last year that kind of niggled at him a little bit, but had a good year, and quite frankly is the go-to starter. Company clearly likes him over Goretzka. He clearly likes him over Bischoff, and he plays well next to Kimmich. I think you're going to see a lot of him. I think you're just going to see him be a household name for the next 10 years. It's not that he blows you away the way like Schweinsteiger or Kroos did, but he is such a reliable guy. His passing accuracy is already 95% and was as a 19-year-old, which is insane. He's kind of limited off some of the violent tackles that got him carded for no reason. So he's learning as well. He's adapting. The game doesn't seem to overwhelm him. His problem is he's not super fast and quick, and I think he can still adjust to that, which is a bit of a problem with Kimmich as well. I think if we can put somebody next to him like Bischoff, I think that'll benefit him a lot. But I think that he's obviously a guy to keep an eye on for Bayern. There's a few other younger guys for Bayern. The main one you're going to look out for is Lennart Karl. So he's only 17. He's going to be the right winger backup to Michael Olise, who, by the way, is going to be Player of the Year. You can book me on that one as well. He's not going to win the Golden Boot, but he is going to be Player of the Year. Yeah. And so Karl is he's like 5'4", 5'5". He's super quick, and my goodness, this guy just finds goals. If you want to, go look at his youth highlights from last year, and he just picks people apart. And he moves at the same pace, and during the preseason friendlies, he looked just as good against men. And he's only going to get better. He's very much in the mold of Ribery, short, quick, powerful, smart, and he can finish. So I think you're really going to enjoy watching him. You're only going to see him in spots this year, but you'll see him in highlights, and then he'll slowly get to be a bigger part of that. I really hope we don't loan him out like we have a lot of the other academy guys. I hope we just keep him on the roster and just continually make him better. So for Bayern, that's who you're looking at. The other two I want to point out are one from Frankfurt, Hugo Larsson. So this is his third year as well. He's a Swedish guy, very impressive. I think he's going to have a big jump this year. The other one, everybody loves Norwegians, right? We've got we've got some good guys who come out of there randomly.
Golden generation, many are saying.
It's crazy, right? Antonio Nusa. This is his second year at Leipzig. Again, he's one of the other guys that I think is going to really take them to another level. And again, the second half of the season, you're really going to see him come on strong. Fun player. That is going to be one you kind of keep your eye on, where a lot of people are talking about him in Leipzig. It's going to be smart. Hold on to him for another year or two and then sell him for 50 to 75 million. I think there's a pretty clear path for him doing that with a year or two left on his contract. In terms of other players who just came into the league this year or came from a different team, obviously Joe Bellingham, he was, I think, the biggest one of 30 million going to Dortmund from Sunderland. He's 19. I'm not as big on the Bellinghams as everybody else is, but he's certainly a player to watch in terms of a young player. Ibrahim Maza went to Leverkusen from Hertha, which is, I think they're in Division 2 right now.
Yep.
He came on for about 12 million, but he's only 19. He's an Algerian. So you're going to see him get some national team call-ups as well, which will be great for him. Fun player. Ernest Poku also went to Leverkusen. He was only about 10 million. He's 21, but he came from AZ Alkmaar, who had a very good season in the Dutch league where they surprised a lot of people. And then they've started to disseminate a little bit. And then the last one is Sam M. Bengula. He went to Werder Bremen from Juventus.
Yep.
Only 10 million, but a fun Belgian who I think is going to make a name for himself. And I think the Bundesliga is a better fit for his talents. And so you're going to see his value go up very quickly. Another one of the reasons why I'm high on Bremen is they have a few other players like that are going to, I think, elevate them rather than keep them status quo.
No, you hit the nail on the head with him. I think he wasn't a defensive fit in Italy, but his attacking talent will definitely be more on display. So good move for him. Man, what I'm going to ask you now, Michael, just we got it flashing down on the bottom of the screen. Just tell everybody, you just listened to the man for 40 minutes. Knowledge is off the charts. We appreciate you giving us the lowdown. Tell us what you guys are doing over at Bavarian FB Works, yourself personally, the team, what's going on, where can people find you, everything.
Absolutely. Well, we still got the same URL, Bavarian Football Works. We did just retool the site, SB Nation across the board, switched. So it's kind of a cleaner look. It definitely takes some adjusting to because nobody likes change. But it is a nice look, and certainly it looked really nice on the desktop. They introduced a new feed, which is kind of easier to interact with opposed to like full articles. We still have our 20 to 30 guys on staff, girls as well, who are bringing stuff in from everywhere around the world. We still have our blog on game days, which I do during the weekdays, and RIPLT does it on weekends. Chuck's still doing the podcast. We have a daily, plus we have some game day stuff, preview shows. So lots of content is really the takeaway there. So we got something for everybody. So come check it out if you're not familiar with it. There are some other sites with SB Nation, but we are definitely one of the best ones. I think one or two. Liverpool's a big one, and Real Madrid's big because they are.
They're everywhere.
There's your Liverpool shout out. You're welcome. By the way.
Thank you.
Hey, go find more people like Michael. This is a glimpse of what you guys are going to get by checking them out.
Yep, absolutely. So we got a lot of cool stuff. Come check it out if you haven't already. And we love to partner with other people like here at Kicks and Picks. You guys do a great job. I certainly watch the show. Try to every week, at least every other week. So love it.
Well, appreciate it, man. And now you're stuck with us because we're going to talk a little Premier League and Serie A. So stick with us. We want your thoughts if you have.
You hit your mute, Nick. You muted yourself. You did a little. There it is.
You got so excited that he had
my microphone went off. Listen, you can't do any worse than I did last week. So just throw out anything that you like. That sounds good. But Scotty, let's shift gears. Let's get into it. A couple games we'll feature here. Saturday morning, 7:30 Eastern time here in the States. Man City at home to Tottenham. 2 shutout winners last week. Tottenham 3-0 over Burnley. City 4-0 over Wolves. Are City back? Many are wondering. Many are questioning. Is Tottenham for real? Coming off of, well, no, I was going to say a trophy, but a 75-minute trophy? What was it?
85 minutes, technically. They were winning 2-1. Yeah, until about the 85th minute.
But a retooled Tottenham, right? Coming off of some silverware, new coach. We talked about him at length. They are a big underdog here. City is minus 205 at home. Tottenham is plus 475. So, Scotty, take us through your thoughts. What do you see happening in this game? And we'll get into some bets.
Man, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that week 2, this is, probably the match of the week in England. What may be a surprise is there's 3 teams that had scored at least 3 goals in their opening match and kept a clean sheet. It's Manchester City, it's Tottenham, and it's Sunderland. So shout out to those 3 teams sitting on the top of the table. Spurs are going to come into this, I think, maybe more so the fans being a little bit more downtrodden than the team. The news that's broke today is that they thought they were getting Eberici Eze from Crystal Palace. It seems like they had a £60 million deal ready to go, and then Arsenal, cross-down rivals come in and scoop them up right underneath their nose. So I think this game, weirdly, I think has a lot to do with their fans' sanity probably over the next month. If they can look good here, maybe get a result of some capacity, maybe fans have a little bit more optimism going into the rest of the season. But tough times for Spurs right now, even though they came off a pretty commanding 3-0 lead or 3-0 win over a newly promoted side, but still good result nonetheless. Here's the interesting thing. We know that Spurs have a history of playing City well, even when City's clicking on all cylinders. If we remember this fixture last season, Tottenham won 4-0. It was kind of like the beginning of the red flags for this Manchester City side.
Yes.
And it's another weird trend that the away team in these fixtures are 4-1-1 over their last 6 matchups. So there's a lot of reasons to like Spurs here. I mean, them getting a goal, it's plus, what do you got? Plus 110, plus 115, depending on, what you're looking at on the books. So I think there's a lot of reasons to like Spurs. My only concern is just City do look like they are back to make a statement. Pre-show, Michael was saying that he likes City this year as his futures pick. I don't disagree. I've put them in a bunch of my future parlays with different leagues around Europe. So I don't know that I want to bet against City in this one. What I will say is both teams to score over 2.5 is sitting there at minus 115.
Yeah.
City's defense, I know they kept a clean sheet against Wolves. Wolves are probably also going to be a relegation candidate this season in England. I don't know that I love their defense this year again. It's fine. It's better probably than it was last year. When Rodri's healthy, it'll certainly be a lot better. Yeah. But I think with the way that Richarlison played last weekend, with Kudus being a really dynamic player on the wing, Spurs have more attacking depth than they do anything else. I think they can get a goal here. But with that said, man, dude, I expect City to be able to, navigate the Spurs defense pretty well. I still think they'll get a win at home. I could see this being a 3-1 type of game, but I still like over 2.5 in both teams to score at minus 115. That's probably my favorite pick in this.
No, I dig it. Listen, I see where your guys' head's at. I think, City come out making a statement win in game 1 is good for them. I really like Tottenham plus 1.5 at like minus 125 is dangling in front of me. Can they keep it close? We think they get on the score sheet. They have really nothing to lose. They're away from home. Are they going to go for it? Can they make it happen? I want to believe, but I don't know. The only question you really need to ask yourself is, will City have a bit of a letdown? That's what it's going to come down to.
Home opener, man. That is tough.
Yeah, and that's
tough.
That's the thing. So I will get into some other plays that I like. Richarlison to get a shot on target plus 105 seems really good to me. I don't know how you don't take a shot with that. I imagine he plays the full 90. And then you got some assist props, man.
You have him at, it's minus 150.
Who's that?
Richarlison shot on target. I'm seeing him at minus 150.
I got plus 105 on Hard Rock.
Wow.
Awesome.
That is a great line. Yeah, I would definitely take that. Holy shit.
Yeah, so I already locked that one in. So
Okay.
if it loses, everybody knows who to blame. I'm looking at some assist props, man, and I got Tijani Reinders here at plus 500 for an assist. He's obviously we talked about him at length last year. It was awesome for Milan. He looked really good all preseason. He looked really good in game one. So plus 500 to get an assist is just a big number. That's something I'm gonna be interested in. So those are the two places I'm leaning. I want to talk myself into Tottenham plus 1.5, but I just don't know if I can get there yet. Michael is giving me the no, so we're gonna pass on that. Michael, what do you see, man? I don't know if you have any bets for this game, or even if you don't, just any thoughts on what you expect.
Well, like you said, I think Man City's going to run the table, and I think they're going to do it in dominating fashion. I know everybody's, Liverpool's coming off the high of winning it. I think Man City's going to be healthy. I think they're going to reestablish this is who we are. I think they have a clearer picture of who they are than they did last year. They'll have Rodri back earlier, and you see how much more efficient they are now. I don't know if that's going to necessarily mean Champions League success, but I do think that they are going to run the Premier League and win by a good 5 to 10 points, if not more so. And so I think Tottenham's just going to be the first of many victims. Tottenham's still adjusting to a new coach as well, right? Bringing over the dude from Brentford. I like him. I think he's going to do good work. I think that they're going to be more defensive minded than they have been in a very long time, which has been hurting them. I think that Richarlison's a good player for them to have up there. Again, I like the odds you got of like getting a shot on goal. Absolutely. He may get 7. He might be shooting from half field, but it'll be on goal. But I think, like Scott said, I think it's going to be 3-1, 4-1, something like that, where it's going to be a lot of goals just because they're going to try to play tight, and Man City's going to get one to Holland because they're so good at picking apart teams in small spaces, which is usually like, hey, this is a dominated team. Let's just sit low and see what they can do. And they pick people apart. Usually Holland's on the back post and gets it, but the work is done by the time it gets to Holland. He just knows where it's going to be.
Yeah. I think that, I kind of, when their backline, when Spurs backline is healthy, it's not bad. It's pretty good. Romero and Van de Ven, I think that was their preferred pairing under Ange last season, but they kept getting hurt. So they never really had that consistency. My concern is more so that they're starting 2 19-year-olds in midfield. Talented kids, but still kids nonetheless. And that's the type of concern when you put Pep Guardiola in the mix there. He's going to expose them. He's going to have his players running circles around him. Bernardo Silva's probably going to have a great game. Whatever his number for assist is, that's probably a decent shot too.
Yeah, let me pull it up here.
So I think when I say that, I think City are going to get 3+ goals in this potentially. I think it's just the midfield is going to be an exposed problem. They do have João Polina from Fulham that they can bring in, but if they go with that same starting midfield, which they should, they won 3-0 last weekend. It's not something you should necessarily switch up. He's plus 265, Nick.
Plus 265, yep.
I think that's going to be a recipe for disaster. So I could see City actually getting maybe even 2 goals in the first half. Looking that one up as I talk myself into more picks here. City over 1.5 first half is plus 210. I mean, that's maybe a little chunk of change on that one. Not a big one, but it's tempting.
I love that you glossed over Polina's year at Bayern. That feels like it didn't even happen. He played so few minutes. And, it's funny because he's going to be great for their midfield, especially those young midfielders. But, having watched him play now, he's clearly lost his mojo, right? As happens when you go from a dominant starter for a decade at your different clubs to just the end of the bench, not even the middle, rotational. And every time he got it going after 5 or 10 games, he got hurt and was out for a month or two. And that happened multiple times. And so it's going to take him a while. But I think by the end of the season, if done right, he could be the force that he was for Fulham for a couple seasons. I think that's who he could be, and it's what Tottenham needs. They do doing that so desperately because that attitude resonates with the rest of the club. They've been a finesse team for so long, playing this high line, and they need to realize that's not who they are, and it's not who they should be. I'm not sure if you've ever been to Tottenham, but it is not the nice part of town. They need to embrace that. They need to be a grinded out kind of team and reinforce that on game day, in the locker room, in practice, and needs to be ruthless about it.
Oh, fair enough. Do want to shout out everybody in the chat. My boy Prosciutto, I see your question, dude. I'll throw it up on screen. We're going to get to Serie A in a second here. All right, so that's the early game. I'm not counting Friday because Friday games don't count if I don't like them. Let's go to the late game, which is actually Monday, and it is Newcastle at home to Liverpool. Two teams that have
A little bit
nothing
of
in common.
animosity.
Yeah. I was going to say nothing. I was going to try to make a comparison, and I don't have one other than I think Liverpool played up to your expectations last week. And Newcastle played up to your expectations. I was more on the Villa side of what I thought was going to happen at home. And I think Newcastle outplayed them, right? 0-0 draw, no goals in that game. But I think Newcastle were the better side. So coming at home, they may feel okay about their chances. They are an underdog, plus 230 on the money line. Liverpool plus 105. The draw is plus 275. What I'll say before Scotty goes is I have a rule. My rule is when you have the better team or one of the best teams in the league and you get them at plus money, you take them at plus money. You don't think about it. Liverpool at plus 105 is where I will go, but I don't want to mush your team, Scotty. So feel free to talk me out of it or back me up.
I mean, so let's just do a little set the scene here. Newcastle, look, we talked about it going into Aston Villa. I think the thing that people are kind of glossing over with how bad their summer has been is that they earned a top 4 spot, right? They earned a Champions League berth. It was a lot of the heavy lifting was done on the attacking side was done by Alexander Isak, who will not be here for this match. And it's causing a little bit of an interesting wrinkle in this one, which I'll get to in a second. But tactically, they're sound. Eddie Howe is a great manager. He's a great manager, just full stop. And their midfield, thanks to Eddie Howe, but also thanks to some of the talent that they've brought in between Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali, is probably a top 3 midfield in England right now. And it's certainly going to be better than the midfield that Liverpool put out there, as we just discussed with Florian Wirtz, kind of having to adapt a little bit. I think Gravenberch will be back. McAllister's coming back from injury. So if that's their starting 3, then it's probably a little bit better. But in terms of like controlling the game, I would still lean a little bit towards Newcastle having the advantage in midfield. Now, the real X factor in all of this, Newcastle is a very tough place to play. The fans are great. We see it during the Champions League matches. They are screaming for every tackle, for every pass, for everything. And these fans do not like Liverpool right now because of what's been going on this summer with Alexander Isak. Whether or not it is 100% Liverpool's fault, 10% Liverpool's fault, somewhere in between, these fans do not like Liverpool. They want blood. They want Liverpool to lose and lose badly in this, especially with Hugo Ekitike almost getting signed by Newcastle, now going to be leading the line for Liverpool in this. So there is a lot of, tangible negative feelings that are going to be evident in this match all the way through. So with that said, I don't know that I'm going to come out and pick a winner because there's so much here that you just can't quantify that's going to impact the game. I will say the best bet that I love in this match, and I'm going to take this right now, is Newcastle to score first goal is plus 110. The energy from kickoff is going to be incredible. I know they didn't score against Aston Villa. Their attacking line is not great, but between Anthony Gordon being a Liverpool fan and wanting to impress the Liverpool hierarchy for other reasons, potentially, between all the attacking players getting shit on for the last 2+ months because Alexander Isak doesn't want to be there anymore. They can't get, Hugo Ekitike. They can't get Brent Sesko. They can't get Wisa. They can't get all these guys that are trying to replace these 3 or 4, Harvey Barnes. And now they have Jacob Ramsey coming in. They're going to want to prove something. So I love Newcastle score first. I don't know what will happen after that. We have seen Liverpool come back from a 1-0 deficit in Newcastle before. Darwin Nunez's famous brace with 10 men on the field. But I think that's my favorite pick in this one, bar none.
Listen, I don't think the draw is bad at plus 275. I think that's a nice little shout. I told you guys Liverpool at plus money. I'm just going to really take it and not think about it. Provided he starts, I like Anthony Elanga to get 2 shots, not shots on target, just 2 shots, minus 110. I think that's like the play for me. He's going to be firing when he gets a chance, and doesn't really matter where it goes.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Michael, give us your thoughts, man.
I think you guys said all the right things, but got to the wrong outcome. I think this is going to be a brutal brutal game where like you're going to be lucky to get to the box because you're going to get fouled so often, and there's going to be an outrageous amount of cards in this game. I don't know what the over under is on that.
Oh, no, will you just wait?
Go find out. I'm going to take the over. I don't care what the number is.
Yeah.
I think that Newcastle has something to prove here. I think they're taking this personally. I think they kind of want to internally show Alexander Isak that you need to stay here because we are worth fighting for. I like Ramsey. I like Alanga. I like Malik Thiaw.
Yeah.
I think they loaded up very nicely, and like you mentioned about the home crowd, they're going to bring it. I don't know if they're going to score first, but I guarantee you that they're going to make this one of the most physical games you're going to see all season. I would expect it to be like a 1-1 draw, something like that. Likely with Newcastle scoring first, maybe not, but then Liverpool's too talented to keep off the board. But I mean, like you saw last week with Liverpool, they're not as strong defensively as they have been. And again, there's a mentality issue there of we won the title. We accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. And usually with teams like that who haven't done it in a while, they turn around and they do well the next season, but they don't do well in August and September. There's a little bit of a hangover. They draw games they should win. They lose the games they should draw. And I think you're going to see a little bit of that against a very motivated Newcastle team that isn't worn down by Champions League yet, right? I think this team, this is their big game right now. Maybe they find another one later, but I think they're going to make this vicious. Did we find the over-under on the cards?
Oh, we did. So total for the game is 4.5, over 4.5 cards at -110. Liverpool total is 2.5. Newcastle total is 2.5. So like Newcastle to get 3 cards is +125. And if you want to go really crazy, a red card in the game is +330.
I don't think there's going to be red. I think there might be.
Depends on who's the ref, Scotty. Do we have a ref in this game?
I don't have a ref yet, but Newcastle already got, they had the red card in their match last week. It'd be kind of odd going back to back, but you never know.
I don't think so. I think you might see a couple coaches get thrown out. You might see somebody on the bench get a card and sent off like a backup keeper or something. It's a great game for that, right?
Newcastle, most cards, +155. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think I'd take that. Absolutely.
Before we close out, I have 2 thoughts.
Go.
One, Nick, we were talking in the text chain with the Arsenal 1-0 win over Manchester United. We said how that's probably going to be a good result for Arsenal because they're getting Manchester United before all their players kind of really adapt in. And I think Manchester United will get it rolling throughout the middle of the season. I think it's like the inverse for Liverpool. Like you just said, Michael, they are not fatigued at all by Champions League yet. The fans are in the midst of this tumultuous summer, so they're going to be riled up as they will ever be. I think this is probably like the hardest point for Liverpool to have to play at Newcastle in the entire season. So this is going to be one of those games that Liverpool might drop points and it may not look, as good as it does right now. It may look even worse moving on. So that's my first point. The second point is I have a player prop that I'm taking just purely because of numbers. In his last 6 games versus Newcastle, Mohamed Salah has contributed at least 1 assist. He's sitting there at +370 to give an assist here. He's, opening week, 9 straight opening match day goals, gets his 10th this last weekend. It's another trend that I just think with Salah, you just have to assume that he can contribute. And at +370, I think that's a huge number for a guy that's going to be feeding Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz and potentially Cody Gakpo all day long.
More than fair. Any other plays you'd like in England before we shift gears? Wasn't everything else?
I do want to take Burnley at home +130 money line. It's their first opening day home crowd. They're playing Sunderland that just got smacked, or not. They didn't get smacked. They did the smacking, but I think they're due for a smacking.
Yeah.
Do we think Brighton, with as bad as Everton played against Leeds, Brighton money line is staying there at +140?
Kind of. I tried to talk myself into it last week. I tried to believe in what I've seen out of Everton the last 2 years. They're better than the table has indicated. And then I watched them last week. So I will take anybody against Everton based on what I saw last week.
Yeah.
That's a
and
good
then
strat.
And then the last one that I'll just shout out quickly, I do like United getting a bounce back here on the road. Definitely. At Fulham. Fulham have done diddly all summer. I think I think they're, again, a potential relegation candidate. We talked a little bit about that a couple weeks ago. So them plus money on the road, I'm happy to take that.
And that's the other thing. I think Brighton being held last week to Fulham probably plays in their favor this week to come out and get a result.
Yep.
Is Man U or Fulham the relegation candidate?
Fulham. I think United are a sneaky. I think we had top 5 odds, Nick. I think they're a sneaky top 5 play this year.
I agree.
They're going to be much better. It can't be worse.
There's nowhere to go but up, right?
And listen, if they're not in the top 8, then I think weirdly enough, Amorim will probably have to go.
Yeah,
which is just a terrible thing for United to keep going through. But with the way that he has been able to really fully implant his vision and had a full summer transfer window, if we get to mid-January, and they're sitting, 10th mid-table or around thereabouts, I think his seat's going to be very warm for a cold winter ahead.
Agree. All right, let's shift gears. We have opening week, match day 1 in Italy. If you guys didn't catch it, we did a preview show last week, and we actually previewed a lot of it over the summer with a couple of our guests, so check that out on YouTube if you haven't already. There's really, really a lot of mismatches, a lot of okay matches. There's one in particular that looks really good on paper. That is Roma hosting Bologna, and these are 2 teams that are going to be fighting for potentially top 4, definitely top 6. Where are my odds? My odds just escaped me here. Roma looking plus 115, Bologna plus 240. The draw is plus 230. And I kind of like goals in this one. I think both teams are going to be going for it. I think both teams want 3 points. Roma didn't score an awful lot last year, but they have a brand new coach, which is potentially the biggest upgrade of the season in Serie A, going to Gasperini from Atalanta. I think over 2.5 at plus 110 is a live number. Both of these teams get on the score sheet. Bologna seem to get at least a goal every week. I think there's a winner in this game. 2 goals is gonna be what it takes. So I like that at plus 110.
Yeah, both teams to score minus 115
that's there too.
Feels like a lock. I mean, I'm assuming Chiro will get the start playing with him and Orsolini. They've got to score. They've got to get at least 1 goal from the 2 of those guys. And then Roma, like you said, Nick, Atalanta for the longest time was our biggest, both teams to score over whatever you want to say, automatic pick. So coming over to Roma, I don't see why that trend wouldn't continue with his new club. So I'm happy to take this minus 115. I don't even need both teams to score an over 2.5, which is also probably a good shout. Is plus 145. So if you want to double up, by all means. But I'm happy with minus 115 on just the both teams to score.
And the only thing that gives me just a little bit of pause is you don't really know what either lineup is gonna look like. Who's gonna start? Is Ferguson? We talked about him a lot. Is he gonna get his first start game 1? Does Dovbyk get the shout? Is Dybala or Sule who's getting that shout in midfield? Everybody is plus 200 to score or longer. So if you believe us and think there's going to be goals in this game, there's definitely opportunity to pick a goal scorer. I just don't have that in front of me without knowing who's going to start and who's not.
Yeah.
And same thing with assists. I mean, if Dybala is going to start, it's plus 350 for an assist. Orsolini, who had double-digit assists last year, is plus 500 for an assist. I mean, there's good numbers to be had. I just don't know who's going to play in week 1, how far everybody gets stretched. So proceed with caution there, but there's definitely some numbers worth taking a look at as it gets closer to kickoff.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, Orsolini sitting there anytime, or not anytime, player shot on target, it's just minus 120.
Huge. And he will take free kicks, no doubt about it.
So another little player prop to throw in.
I don't know who's going to take penalties. Maybe Immobile gets penalty duty now that he's there. Even though Orsolini took them all last year.
Yeah.
So something to keep an eye on. Michael, any thoughts on this game? Do you follow Serie A at all?
I follow loosely. I do not follow Roma much.
Smart man.
Follow Bologna a little bit because they were on my fantasy team last year. And so looking at basic numbers, last year these teams played twice. One was 3-2, one was 2-2, right? So that's 4 and 5 goals. The over for 3.5 goals for the game is at plus 300. It feels like a reasonably good option to get a 2-2, 3-2, 7-2 game. I don't know. Where they both just keep throwing haymakers. It's earlier in the season, so I feel like you see less of those. You see more of it's either 3-0 or 1-1 sort of thing. But I do think that seems like good odds, at least, to take the plus 300.
Say less. I'm with you. Let's do it. It did not even occur to me to look, but let's absolutely ride plus 300 there. Scotty, any other thoughts on this game? I do have some other bets I'll quickly talk through, but I mean,
No,
I wish Coach was here because he'd be talking up Roma so much. And then if they come back and don't win this game, we'd be able to just unload on them next week.
yeah. Well, there's still a chance that we get to unload on him next week.
You can still do that, right? Like, that's still allowed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's so much more satisfying when he's talking up, or like every week he, like the optimist in him just talks up Roma as if like the week before it didn't happen. Or
usually we can talk him into betting a Roma pick in some capacity that then goes wrong and it becomes a loser. But
definitely.
Yeah,
that does sound like fun. I mean, here's a fun one. They finished between 5th and 7th for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. That's kind of impressive to be always on the outside looking in, and you don't see that very often. Like always hitting Europa League. That's like the weird Sevilla when they did it during the Real Madrid days, right?
Yes.
Where they won it like 4 or 5 years in a row. Like that was insane to be not great but not drop either. So. Yeah. There's like, my Roma shutout.
The biggest project on paper that never amounted to anything. Like legitimately just never improved in the standings. Had Mourinho for 3 years, brought in all these players, made these shrewd moves, got the leading goal scorer from Spain. Nothing. Finished 5th.
Walked Dybala through the Coliseum,
Right? So no, we're with you. Thank you. You are welcome to bring Roma hate anytime. All right. Week in, week out. All right. A few other ones I'm looking at, and just like proceed with caution. Like I said, underdogs do really well in opening weeks. I think home teams do really well in opening weeks. I was god awful last week, so this is either the correction or you guys just know to fade me for the foreseeable future. I like Fiorentina plus 135 at Cagliari. I mentioned last week, I think Cagliari is a relegation candidate. They're just not very good. They're very good at home. But I believe they just sold the striker, and Fiorentina are just a much better team. So I think they're a decent shout at plus 135. Como is at home to Lazio. Como is a big hipster pick. People are very high on them. Lazio hasn't done anything in the market because for some reason they have a transfer ban that I won't even begin to try to explain or understand. Typically broke clubs don't mess financial fair play, but somehow Lazio managed to do it. Both teams to score is minus 130. I definitely think both teams get on the score sheet. An over is definitely in play for this one, but going a little bit safer with that one. Let's see what else I wrote down here.
That's a big time like bragging rights game for Nick. Like if Lazio can come in and get a result against Como, he gets a bit big, like I told you guys so.
Yeah.
Lazio aren't even good, and they still beat Como.
Exactly. No, I'm going to be all over. You people don't want that. Milan at home opener against Cremonese. Cremonese will probably be the 20th place team in the league this year. So, can Milan get off to a hot start? I don't know. They've burned me probably 30 out of 38 times last year that I bet them, but over 2.5 goals is plus 150 for team total for Milan. So I think that's a pretty decent shout. And, Genoa at home to Lecce. It is the opener 12:30 on Saturday. Both teams aren't very good. I just think Lecce is a little bit worse. Genoa is the home team, even money. I think that's an okay spot to take a stab, but not a lock by any means.
Yeah.
That's what I got for week 1. Every other game is a big mismatch.
Yeah. You would think that they would do something like Premier League did last weekend with having Arsenal and Manchester United play. You got to give the fans a big fixture just to get excited about the season to come. But we'll settle for Roma and Bologna, I guess.
Is there as much planning with European schedules as there is with like NFL and NBA, or do they?
Apparently not.
I think it's around like, is the stadium available? Is Taylor Swift coming or not? That's what we need to know. Is Linkin Park going to be there?
I think they just got to figure out who's sharing San Siro that weekend.
Yeah, there's just two
interweek
two
or Milan week.
Two teams that share, and you want to talk about like the worst planning in the history of ever? It is Serie A League. The owners. Like they'll do makeup games just to spite another team where like last year, I think it was PSG, like France moved their entire calendar to accommodate PSG because they were going to be in the Champions League. Like Italy would do the exact opposite of that, where they would like schedule a game 2 days before, a team is in Europe. So the pettiness is real.
I'm not sure how much you follow League One, but Paris FC is now in the top
Oh,
flight
yeah.
as well, and so they will have to. I think they're sharing the stadium.
Was there like stadium not up to code or so? Isn't it like on this in the same parking lot or something? I could swear I
something
saw
like yeah. There's something to it where like PSG, who like is going to win everything this year besides the Club World Cup, is like having to share with this upstart team that's probably not going to last. And it's just like, you finally got over the hump. You're the best team in the world. What do you want to do? We want to share a parking lot with a Division II team that we're going to relegate next year.
Oh, love it.
Awesome.
Here for the mayhem. No, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. 115 minutes of fun, or not 115, hour 15
75.
minutes of fun.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm looking at the thing on top of the screen here. But Michael, thank you again for joining us, man. Anybody, if you just joined the first 50 minutes of the show, absolutely in depth on the Bundesliga and Bayern Munich. So Michael and his team over there, phenomenal work. Really appreciate you joining us. Obviously, picks towards the end of the show. We're going to chop them up. We'll post both of them, but catch the entire thing on YouTube. Subscribe, like, share if you haven't. Appreciate it. Good luck this week, and we will catch you guys next week.